On July 14, 2015, Iran and the world powers, which included the US, the UK, France, Germany, Russia, and China, reached a deal on Iran's peaceful nuclear energy program. The deal, which has come to be known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, puts limits on Iran's nuclear program in exchange for lifting illegal sanctions imposed on Tehran. The removal of sanctions was celebrated in Iran as Iranian officials tried to drum up investment for the country's sanctions-battered economy. One of the main pillars of the JCPOA was the mutual positive attitude of the parties involved. But despite Iran's strict adherence to the deal and the fulfillment of its obligations, the U.S., under the administration of ex-President Barack Obama, failed to fully keep its side of the bargain. Even after the deal was signed, Iran was not capable of enjoying the full benefits of the deal, since the U.S. sanctions haunted other countries, with the U.S. threatening anyone wanting to do business with Iran. While the U.S. government had agreed to lift the nuclear sanctions against Iran, it continued to impose other sanctions on Iran over what it described as Tehran's human rights policies and its alleged support for terrorism. When Donald Trump became the U.S. president, he pulled Washington out of the deal as part of his so-called maximum pressure strategy against Iran. On May 8, 2018, he appeared in front of cameras and officially terminated the U.S.'s participation in the deal in order to kill the agreements.
This is the whole problem. We could spend a lot of time sitting around talking about, well, this aspect of the deal or that aspect of the deal, and whether this is fair or whether that is good. But the question is, it's irrelevant because they're not the people who have the power to enforce it. They can negotiate an agreement, and as soon as someone comes in, that they can simply say, no, we're not going to follow it, which is what Trump did.
Back then, the administration of President Hassan Rouhani and his team came under fire from critics for failing to get the necessary guarantees in order to levy penalties on the U.S. for violating the deal. Despite U.S. administration's official pullout from the JCPOA, Iran continued to implement the agreement. The European side pledged to do business with Iran through a mechanism which came to be known as the Instrument in Support of Trade Exchanges, or INSTEX. But the project ultimately failed due to the inaction of the European side and the U.S. pressure, leaving Iran with no option but to scale back its JCPOA commitments within the limits of the deal. The new U.S. administration under President Biden has pledged to revive the deal. However, Biden appears to follow the failed policies of his predecessor. It appears that the Biden administration is planning to remove certain sanctions, but to keep a number of sanctions against Iran so that the talks may move toward non-nuclear issues. The U.S. is reportedly dividing the post-JCPOA sanctions into JCPOA-related and non-JCPOA-related ones, intending to remove only the former.
Given years of serious violations of JCPOA by other sides, it is essential to secure enough assurances that all sanctions are removed verifiably, and the U.S. will not, once again, withdraw from the JCPOA or abuse its mechanism to create another implementation crisis to deprive Iran of its benefits from the deal.
But Iran is saying that it considers all those sanctions as JCPOA related because they were imposed with the intent to affect the deal and its implementation, or most recently, the negotiations to revive it.
So what you have is a situation where basically you have Trump in office, who then overturns the Democratic JCPOA, the one that they created. Democrats come into office with Biden, and you think the first thing they would do would be to overturn what Trump did. Well, if it's not as crucial to this group of people, then it gets overturned. But this doesn't get overturned because the people in charge are not Biden and they're not Trump.
Iran says the idea of classifying the sanctions into removable, negotiable, and non-removable is seriously at odds with attempts to revive the deal. Iran says the Biden administration must have a formal and international commitment that the White House will not withdraw from the deal again.